This is the EHE Office of Research PI Portal webinar series. This is the inaugural webinar of the series. There'll be more to come. There's always a lot to talk about when it comes to the PI Portal. Um, I thought it was most important to start by talking about project personnel, the different um, issues that come up when you have people that are being paid from your sponsored project. This is a brief overview. Um, and again, I am Michael Moses, and I am the post-award grant support for at the college level. Um, Thanks again for coming. So it was awful tempting to title this webinar, tongue-in-cheek, PI Portal sucks. Or, I hear that sometimes. I hear about how it's always wrong, which it's not. It does have some shortcomings. I just as easily could have titled it, What is the PI Portal again? That's something I also hear with some frequency, and it's completely understandable. Faculty researchers are busy, and all of us in this day and age are bombarded with web resources and apps. We get login fatigue. It's really challenging to know what resources are important and useful. And despite its limitations, the PI portal is both important and useful. So thanks again for taking the time today. In this webinar, we're basically going to learn how to review who is being paid from a project at any given time. We'll also go over the different types of salary commitments. Um, we will look a little bit at a related electronic tool called eScan, which is part and parcel with the PI portal. And we probably won't have a lot of time to go into effort certification, but we will touch a little bit on how that relates to the eCert system. So this will be some simple navigation plus noting important nuances of the PI portal salary information, and then previewing eScan. As much as anything, though, we want you to leave this webinar with an understanding of why it's critical to regularly review the information in the PI portal, and to simply just ask for help when you have questions or concerns about misleading info. Um, the PI, leads the way when it comes to their projects, but they, can't possibly administer one or more grants alone. So it's critical to involve others. So why is the PI portal important? I like to think of the PI portal as a sort of bank statement for your grant. Um, it is a constantly changing financial expression of your research project. That is, financial transactions follow pretty much every technical on-the-ground research activity. It's easy to forget that, but it's true. Money is changing hands in many different ways in the course of a research project. And so this all kind of goes back to making sure that we are performing proper stewardship of grant funds. Why the focus on personnel costs today? Well, salaries, fringe benefits, and tuition pretty much make up the majority of a project's costs. I hear 80% sometimes. I don't know if that's really a reliable figure, but generally, people costs are typically the biggest chunk of your budget. And these types of costs are pretty fluid in nature. People, students, and staff come and go pretty routinely. Salaries tend to go up. Benefit rates change. They go up or down almost annually. We can never really tell. And then there are, a lot of timing issues and system constraints when it comes to the way that the HR system, the general ledger, the way that information feeds into the PI portal. So it's it's kind of a chore keeping up with this stuff, but we do what we can. Um, the PI portal, of course, you have it bookmarked. If you don't, this is the primary link that can take you to the PI portal. It can also be accessed via the EHE Office of Research website and the OSP website. When you are on any of the Office of Research, the EHE Office of Research web pages, all of them, this is the Post Award support page, but all of the pages for EHE OR will have this big old PI portal button at the bottom. You can just uh, click away and you'll get there. So I'm going to jump out of our slideshow for now, and we're going to go into the portal and just kind of hop around. This is what I see when I log into the PI portal. PIs will likely see something different. I think PIs will see a list of their projects. I have college level admin access, so I can kind of see everything. Um, you want to stay in the project overview screen. This is you'll always know you're here by this grayish, bluish shading. Different views like the award view and the proposal view, they have, this pink and green. Those are not what we're concerned with today because we just want project level detail. Um, so anytime you're in this view, you'll see this row of buttons at the bottom, and you can just click on your projects. I have to take a little bit more of a roundabout route because I have access to lots of different projects. Um, George Newell has agreed to let us look at his grant. So I just set the project number, and you come to a project summary screen. I always tend to access projects by clicking on the title. When you have free time, if you're not familiar with the portal, it's good to go in and just, click around on a number of different levels. Clicking here, for example, will take you directly to your financial summary. But any of those ways you want to get into your project, this is where you'll see a row of tabs here at the top. These are all, they all are useful in their own way, but in terms of information that is kind of consistently changing and needs consistently tracked, the financial page is critical. This is where you see the overall view of what's going on with regard to your budget. I will note right here, this is like the rolled up salary and fringe information for everyone that is currently assigned to your project. And what we want to do today is we want to see not that rolled up version, but we want to see the actual detail. So this is the personnel tab, and this is what we're primarily concerned with today. This information is it's critical to start here and then understand that there are some system constraints when it comes especially to the way future salary costs are obligated. So as you can see, this is basically reflecting costs for the month of January. One thing you want to pay attention to in the PI portal is the date range. Usually when you enter this personnel tab, it will show you the prior pay period. So this is giving us January information. If we flip it to only the current month, then you'll see that, payroll hasn't processed. So it's showing that no one's been paid anything yet for the month of February. I think it's helpful to look at, what people are costing in the month prior. So we'll set it back to January. And you'll see he's got a lot of grad students and he's got some co-investigators. And it's very helpful that not only are their costs posted for the month of January or whatever month you want to go back and view. But the salary costs for all of these individuals are also committed out through the future uh, for faculty, for co-investigators. Um, Most of them are 9-month employees, so they need to be taken off release time after May, and then they're eligible for off-duty pay. It's a little bit different for grad students, and it might be even, different for different kinds of people you have appointed to your project. So the main thing, one of the most critical reasons we're here today is because there are some problems with the way salaries commit, especially because EHE is, it's full of faculty that are 9-month employees. We do have some 12-month employees, but basically we have nine-month employees across the board. And these salary commitments, this is a kind of a quirk of the HR and OSP systems, but the commitments are based on faculty's 12-month pay rate. So we have 9-month faculty, but they're paid over 12 months. That creates a bit of a problem with effort reporting, and it also creates a problem with enabling faculty to earn off-duty pay. So the big trick of the PI portal is that for past pay periods, the 9-month rate will be adjusted. OSP goes in and they make they recalculate so that the 9-month rate is reflected. That is, a higher pay rate will be reflected for prior pay periods. Anything that has gone from a commitment to an expenditure because payroll has processed will reflect a higher rate. Everything else will, the future commitments will reflect a 12-month rate. I won't spend too much time on this, but I'm going to go into another slideshow that another group of grants managers put together to show you exactly what we mean. It boils down to your salary commitments for any 9-month faculty are going to be a little bit actually significantly underestimated. Here is kind of a summary of the issue. 9-month faculty are paid for 9 months of work, but they are paid over 12 months of the year. So this is the academic year, September to May. After the pay has processed for any given month, OSP will go and make an adjustment so that a 9-month rate is reflected. Now, when you view the commitment info in the PI portal, it will be at the 12-month rate. So if this would be the salary commitments for like at the beginning of the academic year, and this would be after each pay period has processed. So $7,500 to $10,000 in this case, that's a 33% increase when it goes from committed to expended. So it's pretty tricky, and that is only for 9-month faculty. 12-month faculty don't have this issue, and student positions and staff, A&P staff positions won't have this issue. But if you do have a grant where there are a lot of 9-month faculty, it's pretty much guaranteed that, especially at the very beginning of a grant, your costs are going to be understated. So another thing to consider is that off-duty pay is not committed in the PI portal. George's grant, it's due for 1 more year of funding, I believe, but for now we're only funded through June 30th. George and some of his co-investigators are likely going to have off-duty pay for the month of June, and that is not reflected here. One other thing to keep in mind, It's usually a lower dollar item, but student assistant positions, um, they are based on biweekly pay, and they are, based on, these positions, these people in these positions submitting hours, and their hours are all over the place. So there's no way of committing those positions either. I think George has one such position here. This student assistant here, Layla, she is assigned to his grant currently, but there is no commitment. So that's another thing to be aware of. Um, Lastly, when it comes to this page here, this FTE column is not a very good indicator of true effort. It's correct in a lot of cases, but due to the way that we process release time here in the college and the way the way a faculty member's time is distributed across different orgs, it can be inaccurate. For example, I know that George Newell is 40% on this project right now, and when I crunch the numbers, certainly 40% of his salary is posting. However, it says 20, and that's because his effort on the project is divvied up between two different orgs, 20% on one, 20% on the other, and the system only pulls in one of those. So that can be tricky too.
Hey, Michael, a
Yeah,
couple questions.
sure.
You said that off-duty pay it doesn't show up here, right?
Correct.
So how will I know that they are eligible for that? Is there a way for the PI portal to know that, or do I just need
Um,
to contact my fiscal officer, ask him whether they have off-duty
uh,
pay?
yeah, well, when you're talking about who's eligible, 9-month faculty are generally eligible when it
Right,
comes to whether
right.
whether off-duty pay for a certain individual is, you know, part of the plan, part of the budget, then, that's you would want to, contact, yeah, a fiscal officer or myself. You just want to kind of take a look at the budget. If you are the PI, then that's kind of your decision who will be working in the summer, who you can afford to pay to work in the summer. If
Sure.
you're a co-investigator, at the beginning of the summer, it's always good to talk to the lead PI and make sure everyone's on
Sure.
the same page.
Okay. And another question, you said like in this case, Georgia is split between two orgs,
Uh-huh.
and this is only picking up one of them.
Yeah.
How do I know, how will I identify that he has two orgs and that I'm only seeing half of the picture here?
We'll get to that in a second. It boils down to the eScan tool is a more reliable gauge
Okay.
of effort at any given time. And then again, it's something that you can always shoot me an email, or
Sure.
different HR people and
Yeah.
fiscal people will be able to give you, the true distribution should the PI portal not be accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm
And
thinking of this from the chair's point of view. Is the way I look at this is what am I, what am I thinking about as far as the fiscal implications? So.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
I may
Joe,
need to leave a little early because I got a 12 o'clock over at the Blackwell, but
Okay.
okay, but
yeah.
Joe,
Anyway,
just one
yeah, Kim.
thing that amount is correct. The
Okay.
amount's correct. It's just that the FTE, you
Ah, ah,
it's like you have a question. It's like, well, this is more money than it would be for 20%, but
gotcha.
yeah, so the money is right.
Ah,
It's just that
okay.
the FTE is wrong.
Okay, cool. Oh, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, which would
Mhm.
make you confused. So,
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Um,
Yeah.
so let's go back into our slideshow here. Here we are at the beginning. Sorry about that. Okay, so here, this is what we just discussed, the various kind of system constraints that can lead to underestimating your salary obligations. So how do you deal with that? How do you cope with, you know, the inaccuracy or the shortcomings of the way salaries are obligated in the future. Um, well, for one, you want to visit the personnel tab at least monthly, and just to look at who you're paying and make sure what they're being paid is accurate based on their efforts as part of the project. I've had PIs, I've referred them to the personnel information in the PI portal, and I've had them come back and say, I don't know who that person is, because things happen. Project numbers get transposed, and it's not very often, but sure, the wrong people could be assigned to your grant. So you definitely want to review that information. For people in EHE, where, as we talked about, there's mostly 9-month faculty, I would always kind of build in a little buffer, a little bit of a cushion in the salary and fringe line items, especially at the beginning of an academic year or the beginning of a grant budget period. As you get toward the end, the actual amount of, that 9-month rate will have posted, so you'll get a more realistic picture as you get further into your grant. But of course, you don't want a deficit. Um, the use of a shadow budget of some kind is very helpful. This is something that, if you could adapt from the proposal budget and make a column of actual costs. I've helped, various faculty with this. Some of them are pretty proficient in doing this on their own. Some people have program managers, or the centers have grant support that help them. But ask for help. That's kind of the most critical thing. Involve the relevant people in your department. Involve me and Office of Research, because this basically comes down to tracking what you see in the PI portal and then making adjustments based on what you can see down the road. You can't always see everything down the road, but we can usually see a little bit more than is apparent in the PI portal. We discussed briefly the eScan feature. This is a pretty helpful feature that allows you to quickly filter you and your staff by time period or project number. It does tend to be a better gauge of PI and staff effort when it comes to reporting purposes. We talked about the shortcomings of that FTE column in the PI portal. When you go to do effort reporting, for example, for an annual progress report for a federal agency, eScan is a more helpful tool. And we'll look at that real quickly. eScan is a feature that's found within the PI portal. You want to navigate to it through the profile. And the profile is something that all PIs have. There's a lot of different information in there. Right now, we're just going to go over eScan. So I'll find George, and you want to view these row tabs here. Right now, we're going to jump into eScan, and a new window pops up. And this is a way to sort people that are assigned to your projects by time period. So if you recall, I noted that George, it appeared he was 20% on his grant when he is actually 40%. And here you'll see that he is correctly noted at 40%. So that is a helpful tool. Again, you can sort by project number or employee, however you want to do it. We just almost done here. We just need to touch a little bit on effort certification. This is something that definitely requires its own webinar at some point. But we did actually already kind of touch on it, the FTE and the eScan feature, the amount of salary that is posting to your project. It all should reflect employee effort on a project. We'll have more on this in a future webinar, but it's kind of a critical aspect of sponsored projects. So there will be some resources that will follow this webinar that I will send out via email. I'll find out everyone who attended, and I'll send a couple different documents that will just kind of give you additional information on all things related to the way personnel are assigned to grants and paid from grants. Are
Well,
there
thank you very
any?
much, Michael.
Sure.
Yushen, do you have any questions for Michael?
Okay.
All
New
right.
PI. Okay.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Yushen. Do you have any externally funded projects? I see that Yushen is typing. Um, so, of course, the PI portal is a tool that will help folks that have externally funded projects keep track of those projects. And when you get those kinds of grants, you're going to absolutely work with Michael and the PI portal to make sure that your grants are um, being run the way that you think they should be. So we are going to go ahead and close, and if Yushen has any questions, please talk to Michael directly. He will send out any information, as well as the recording, and we hope to see you at a future webinar.
Indeed. Thank you so much for coming, and good luck in applying for your grants, Yushen. I hope I can be of assistance to you in the near future.